I've come out today, I'm near Hinton House. It's just outside of Cheriton. And I've come out, there was an important battle of the English Civil War fought here. It's called the Battle of Cheriton. And so I've just come out to have a look around and show you where the battle took place and hopefully tell you a bit about it. So these boards are set up around the walk and they show how the battle sort of progressed. And this is where the battle took place. Hinton House is just over to the left there, Hinton Admiral House. It's been a really wet winter, so there's lots of water about. I've not really seen this stream just here flowing like this. But as I say, it's been a really wet winter. So I'll tell you a bit about the story. So the battle took place between the Royalist forces. They were under the control of Sir Ralph Hopton, and he was Lord Hopton. And the Parliamentarian forces, they were under the command of William Waller. Sir William Waller, get his name, get his title right. So the Royalists, of course, they were fighting for King James I. And Hopton had been tasked to invade Hampshire and try and capture what he could of the southeast of England, which was under parliamentarian control. Now in 1643, that's when Hopton moved into Hampshire, and Parliament had lost control of the southwest of England. So Hopton established his command in Winchester in Hampshire, and Parliament commanded Waller to try and slip past Hopton's men and advance into the southwest of England, try to recapture it. They'd lost it in a battle in 1643. But one of Waller's men, Sir Richard Grenville, he defected to the Royalist cause and went to Hopton and revealed this plan to him. So Hopton advanced to try and capture New Alresford. So he advanced out of Winchester and his plan was to capture New Alresford. Now, the Royalists arrived in New Alresford just before the cavalry of the Parliamentarians. So the Royalists arrived in the evening at New Alresford, and the next day they slowly advanced south cautiously, and they arrived. The village of Cheriton is just near here. So they arrived just north of here, and so they were not far from the Parliamentarian army. So Hopton sent Sir George Lisle forward to set up a forward observation command post near to Cheriton Wood. And Lisle reported that the Parliamentarians were retreating. And this was true at that time. The Parliamentarians were being outmanoeuvred, so Waller had decided to retreat. But during the night, he changed his mind. And so he decided to advance. And so first thing in the morning, the London Brigade were tasked with going and capturing Cheriton Wood, which we will arrive at soon. Now, Hopton had gone to Lisle's command post, and he realised they wouldn't be able to hold it, so he decided to withdraw. So they withdrew to a ridge behind Cheriton Wood, where the Royalist lines were, And the London Brigade, they captured and took control of Cheriton Wood. So here we are, we're approaching Cheriton Wood now. And the thing with this battle is that the lay of the land, it hasn't really changed. This is pretty much, here we are, just show you, and here, this is pretty much what it was. I think it was the 29th of March, the battle, 1644, and it's pretty much as it was then. So this is Cheriton Wood still here. So the parliamentarians under the London Brigade are in control of Cheriton Wood. And Hopton realised that Cheriton Wood would be crucial to the battle and was important to hold it. So he sent 1,000 musketeers to go and take back Cheriton Wood here. And there was a pitched battle here, and the London Brigade, they got chased out. The London Brigade were not regular soldiers, and they weren't very well trained and that. And so it tends to happen in those situations that brigades, regiments like that, will tend to crack when the pressure gets intense, which is what happened. So we'll have a look in Cheriton Wood. And as I say, I don't think this has probably changed that much in the last 400 years. I've no idea what this huge pit is here, but it's great for kids on their bikes, BMXs, whatever they call them now. And looking at it, I think that probably gets well used for that. I assume it was some sort of quarry. But anyway, here we go, big hole in the ground. And as I say, I don't think this is probably that different from that morning then. So the London Brigade have been chased out. The Royalists are now in control of Cheriton Wood. And the battle is set to progress. So I'll take you up to the Royalist lines now. Just before we leave the wood, I'll just show somebody's obviously made a shelter here at some point. It got a bit dilapidated now. I doubt that's Lyle's command post, but there you are. Somebody's been a bit interactive and made a shelter. Right, up to the Royalist lines. The terrible irony of any civil war, and this one was no different, is that it pits relatives, friends against each other, and it's terrible to see. And that was the case with this battle. Waller, in charge of Parliament's army, and Hopton, in charge of the Royalist army, they were actually friends and they had fought together. And Waller sent a message to Hopton, which I'll put down. It's a bit long, and I certainly haven't memorised it, but I'll put it down, and you can see what I mean. And it just brings out the tragedy of friends having to be on opposing sides in a battle like this. And of course, that went all the way down through the country. People had to decide which side they were going to be on, which is a terrible thing when it comes to big decisions like this. As I say, it splits families, it splits friendships. So best to avoid it if it's at all possible. So this is a memorial set up to the battle, and it says the Battle of Cheriton, 29th of March, 1644. In these fields during the Great Civil War, the Roundhead army under Sir William Waller gained a notable victory over the Cavaliers of King Charles I, led by the Earl of Forth and Lord Hopton. This monument commemorates those 20,000 soldiers who hazarded their lives on that spring day. The Royalist generals withdrew their army in good order past this place, raised by public subscription, 1975. So this was where the Royalist army camped. And this is another of these. Oh, I'm going to have a bit of a sit down. Oh, it's been uphill all the way here. And I'm beginning to feel that the years are drifting away a bit. I'm beginning to feel this now. So this is another of these battlefield. As I say, I think there's 4 of these, and they show the progression of the battle. So basically, Cheriton Wood is over there straight in front of us, behind the sheep. And this is where the Royalists were, and you've got a ridge. You've got a bit of a valley there, got a ridge. That's where the parliamentarians were by Cheriton Wood. And so Hopton, he decided to stay put and defend his lines and let the parliamentarians attack. So as I say, the parliamentarians are on that ridge opposite. So they advanced, but there was one of the Royalists, a bit impetuous. He was called Sir Henry Bard, and he was in charge of some of the foot soldiers. And he decided to advance down into the valley and attack the left-hand flank of the cavalry, the parliamentarian cavalry. But this was a disaster. Now, the cavalry, as well as the normal cavalry, they also had what were called the London Lobsters. And they were, I think it was Sir Arthur Hazelrigg or something was their commander. And they used to fight in full plate armour. So they were like the heavy cavalry of previous times before guns were invented. And so they were like the tanks of their day. Anyway, the London Lobsters sorted out Bard's men. So Hopton sent the left-hand cavalry, the Royalist left-hand cavalry, the right-hand cavalry of the Royalists, down to help out. And they were defeated as well, because there's lots of little lanes and that around here. And you've got to remember there was, it says there 20,000 men. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. As I understand it, there was about 10,000 parliamentarians and about 6,000 Royalists. But even so, it was a big front along here. So the Royalist cavalry, they struggled manoeuvring and that with these little lanes and that. You'll see as we're going back what I'm talking about. And in fact, it's said that these little lanes ran red with blood on this day. So that didn't work. So the Hopton, he decided to send I'll get it right now, the left-hand Royalist. You've got to remember that they're facing each other, so left is right is the other way around. I'll get easily confused. So the left-hand cavalry was sent in to assist, and they, unfortunately, or fortunately, just depending on whose side you're on, suffered a similar sort of fate. So now the parliamentarians, they advanced along the line. So there was a general advance. The London Lobsters attacked the foot soldiers advancing or trying to defend themselves. And all along the line, the parliamentarians were advancing. And at the same time, they recaptured, as all this was going on, they recaptured Cheriton Wood. So Hopton and Forth was the other commander. They put two and two together that perhaps things weren't going too well, and perhaps the best thing to do would be to retreat, which is what they did. So they decided to retreat, and they retreated in good order, what was left, and they retreated along here back towards New Alresford. I think the final score, to be honest, I can't quite remember, but it was 30 odd killed to the parliamentarians and 300 odd to the Royalists. So it was quite decisive. You can see why they retreated. Anyway, they were obviously in a bit of a bad mood, so they sacked New Alresford as they went through, and they retreated to Basing House, which was a royalist, a bit of a royalist stronghold. I bet they were glad to see them. And I don't know how long they stayed for, but I'm sure Basing House would be glad to see the back of them. And then they returned to Oxford. The King Charles I, he was in Oxford, and they returned to Oxford with the bad news. And of course, because of this, there was no hope now that the Royalists could capture the southeast of England, and in fact the southwest was open now to be recaptured. So really the south of England now had fallen under the control shortly of Parliament. And after this battle, the Royalists were pretty much on the retreat. So it's hard to imagine this, really, just sat here on this lovely peaceful day. There's one car gone by, but that was it, with the sheep just gently grazing in the foreground here, and it all seems just so peaceful. And it's crazy to think of what went on here. It was 400 years ago, and of course it shaped British history. But it's just a shame that it has to come to that in order to sort these things out. But that's life, unfortunately. So I'm just making my way back to the car now. And these little lanes like this, they crisscross all over the place round here, and especially as you get towards Cheriton. And as I said, this was quite decisive within this battle, particularly for the cavalry. And that it was the manoeuvring and that. Anyway, we've completed our story, and of course the ultimate end of the Civil War was that the Royalists lost. Charles I, they lost. His son, Prince of Wales, also Charles, he fled to France with, I presume, the family. Charles got captured, and of course it didn't end up well for him. He got executed, they chopped his head off. And Cromwell, he was a general, he was a leader in the army, and he had remodelled the parliamentarian army, and they called it the New Model Army. And that was quite decisive again in the parliamentarian victory. So the Civil War had come to an end. I believe that Cromwell was offered the crown, but he refused. And because he was really the one who'd won it, he was the man of the day. So England became a republic under Cromwell, and Cromwell was Lord Protector. But that only lasted a few years. Cromwell wasn't that popular with the people. I think he was a bit of a killjoy. And of course it was the Puritans who, they were really in control. He was a Puritan, and they were in control. And I don't think there was any fun. And I don't think this went down very well with the English. And he cancelled Christmas. So he wasn't very popular. And then he died, I forget, 1658, something like that. He died, and his son, I think his son was Christopher, and he took over briefly, but he apparently wasn't any good at all. And so they were in a bit of a quandary. So they decided that the best thing to do was to invite Charles, who'd fled to France, back over, and that's what happened. So I think it was 1660 that Charles came back. He became Charles II, but he was quite different. He was very different to his father. I don't think he wanted anything to do with politics and that, which you can understand, because he'd seen what happened to his dad, you see. So I think you can understand that he sort of kept out of the way a bit. And anyway, he seems to have really sort of been okay. And but Parliament never gave up their power. And this is how eventually Britain became a parliamentary democracy. And the king, the royal family, just never got that power back, because it was all to do with the fact that Charles I, he wanted divine right of kings. He thought anything he did, he was put there by God, so anything he did was okay. Yes, there's a few I can think of today a bit like that. But there you are. And so Charles II, yes, the only problem with him, of course, the one thing that the ruling monarch has to do is to provide an heir, so that there's not a load of trouble when he dies or she dies. And that was the problem. There was no heir. Because I think he had 13 children, but none of them were legitimate, you see. I believe that's what we were taught at school. So he didn't have anything to do with politics. He obviously found other things to do. And of course, he'd spent a long time in France, so that could have something to do with it as well. Anyway, he seems to have been the merry monarch, as they call him. And so that was the end. That was the end of the Civil War, and how we ended up as we are now. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look around the battlefield at Cheriton, and I hope I've been able to put it across in a fairly coherent way and see what happened. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. I will just say before we finish the film, the lovely thing about these little rides like this, these little country lanes, is I'm just trying to make this butterfly move. There, I don't know if you can see that. It's a little brimstone butterfly. There's another one there. There's loads of them down here. And it's lovely, a spring morning like this. We're getting on the middle of March now, and we've got these couple of beautiful days like this. There's another brimstone down there. Unfortunately, this camera won't bring that out very well. But it's lovely walking along here with everything's bursting into life at the moment, because we've had a wet winter, and now, of course, a bit of lovely weather like this. All the spring flowers all out, and it's lovely, so I thought I'd just share that with you anyway. So I'm just nearly back to the car here. I just noticed this. I've never noticed this before. It says Rains English Sparkling. So they make sparkling wine here, evidently, because that's the vineyard over there. And I must say I've tried English sparkling wine, and it's really good. So I would recommend that. You can see how wet things have been, because the water table's really high. You can see there where the water's laying. Anyway, yeah, that's a vineyard there, Rains English Sparkling Wine. Remember the name. There we go. That's a little advert for them. Perhaps they'd like to contribute towards my costs. This, of course, is going out to my multitude of followers, and that all 4 of them. So I'm just coming back to the car. That is definitely the end. I've waffled enough, and I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.